Hey pals, Palumor here, and welcome to the official best Outlaw PvP guide you will ever watch all of Dragonflight right now. Really quick, I'm going to tell you guys what we're going to go through. We're going to do this really fast, and we're going to be really efficient with this guide. Number one, we're going to talk about gearing, stat prio. Then we're going to talk about some of the talents. There's a couple things that can really change how your build's going to feel. We're then going to talk about roll the bones, blade flurry, some macros and stuff, and then we're going to get into the actual rotation and how to do bursts as an outlaw rogue. I should have timestamps throughout the video if you want something specific, but that's pretty much it. Really quick, before I jump into anything, I just want to say the reason I'm making an outlaw guide is because we hit a donation goal on my stream. I stream every single day at twitch.tv/Palumor, so huge shout out to the supporters on that donation goal, supporting me so I'm able to do stuff like this. But yeah, let's get into it. First thing we're going to talk about is just gearing. Gearing is pretty straightforward on Outlaw. I've been playing Outlaw all season, even before the sub nerfs and stuff, so I feel like I have a pretty good idea of what gearing feels like. In general, on Outlaw, your versatility scales pretty well compared to like sub. You'll get more value out of versatility, so having a high amount of verse is really nice. It's just raw damage reduction on you. Really good to have a lot of verse, so make sure you get high verse on every item. Ideally, should be pretty easy with PvP gear. After that, you want to have a pretty good amount of crit. So Outlaw actually has a lot of crit modifiers. I'm not going to get super in depth on it right now. We'll talk about that later when we go into like roll the bones. But basically, I would aim for anywhere above 30% crit, but I would not go above 40%. 40% is getting really high. I think anywhere from like minimum like 30 to 35% is probably a really good window for crit. Between the eyes gives you 20% bonus crit, so that means if I go up to the dummy here and I get between the eyes up, you'll see my base crit's already actually over 50 since I have 31% base crit. This is a really good amount of crit. If you get a shark buff on your roll of bones, you also get 60% increased crit chance on between the eyes, and then if you get a shark buff as well, you get 15% more crit on top of that 51 on everything. So yeah, I would, like I said, anywhere from 30 to 35 feels pretty good. With the rest of your space, if you have stat space for gearing, I would just get mastery. Mastery is going to give you a bunch of just random RNG bonus damage when you're playing, and obviously if you could get more verse instead of mastery, I think that's more valuable. But if I had to kind of explain like the stat prio, it would probably be something like this right here. Like verse, very good, crit to 30-ish, and then mastery is going to be way better than haste. Haste is just not very good for Outlaw. You have pretty good energy regen because you have a lot of adrenaline rush uptime in the game. Like over half the game, you basically have adrenaline rush active. Plus you're playing 2 points in this talent over here, vigor, behind my camera. So you have like a lot of energy regen in general. You do not really need to get any haste. It's not going to do that much good for you. All right, next up, we're going to talk about talents. So people ask about talents all the time. In general, Outlaw tree is pretty straightforward. Over here in the rogue tree, behind my camera, once again, it's just this vigor. No thistle tea. That's all that's happening down here. I would not change anything on this side. If you ever want to, sometimes in matchups versus casters, let's say I'm playing with an arcane mage. My arcane mage can apply slows to the targets constantly. So I'll drop this super big crippling poison, and I'll actually play mind numbing poison, and then I could play like wound and mind numbing just to reduce the cast time of targets I'm hitting. Lately, I haven't really been doing that as much. I think it's actually really nice to have the super crippling poison. It feels like I just have more uptime on my target anyways. So that's an option if you want to switch something. But in general, I kind of keep the same tree all the time. I've also experimented with switching Blackjack into Tricks of the Trade and then playing the Tricks PvP talent. This doesn't seem to give like too much of a direct benefit, so I stopped playing that. The only other thing I could think of doing is if you're playing like 2v2 as double DPS. I was playing some with my mage friend. What I will do is sometimes I'll drop the crippling poison slow and I'll play nimble fingers, and this is to get down to iron stomach. I think the other thing I dropped is rush setup. So if you play iron stomach here with nimble fingers, you have a way better heal, and you can also play this PvP talent right here called Drink Me Up Hearties. This increases your heal and makes it heal allies. So that's like a nice little healing build on the left tree. But in general, for 3v3, I always keep this the same. In the right tree, this talent right here, this makes your passive cooldown reset also reset your evasion. So this is like a huge part of what makes Outlaw really tanky to melee. So I would recommend not really changing this, but if you're playing versus like double casters and evasion's not a huge cooldown for you, you could actually switch to Sting Like a Bee, and this is going to give you bonus damage whenever you're stunning a target. So this is really nice for your team and for you in 3v3, depends what you're fighting. I'm kind of lazy, I don't switch it a lot, but that's like one of the only things you change. And then the other thing, the last thing, there's a lot of debates about this talent point down here. Count the odds, killing spree, greenskins. In general, no one's really like team greenskins. I've tried it a little bit. It's a little bursty. It's not bad. But I like to play killing spree. The difference between killing spree and count the odds is that count the odds is kind of like a PvE pick. If you have 100% uptime on your target and you're spamming ambushes, sinisters, and dispatches, you'll get more roll the bones buffs and it's going to net more DPS overall. Now, in an arena environment, you're not going to have 100% uptime. So you need to think about what has more utility, which is kind of why I like Killing Spree. So good things about Killing Spree really quick. Number one, it's very energy efficient. As you can see, if you're spending full combo points on this, you get almost 3 seconds of Killing Spree, and it only costs 45 energy, and it does a pretty good amount of damage. So it's really energy efficient burst. And the other thing is this ability actually resets with your Restless Blades, which is the passive where spending combo points just resets your cooldowns. So for that reason, I really like Killing Spree. Killing Spree also breaks you out of roots. So if a mage novas you and you Killing Spree, it'll break you out of the root. So really good. And then the last part of it, people don't generally use Killing Spree super defensively, but if you read it, 100% of damage taken during the effect is delayed, and then it gets taken over 8 seconds. So in a way, it's kind of like a preservation evoke or time dilation. So sometimes in 3v3, if my healer CC'd and I have a Killing Spree, I'll throw it just to kind of like reduce the damage I take and slow down the game a bit. So yeah, I think Killing Spree has way more utility, and it's way more of a realistic talent to take in PvP. But some of the best rogues in the game are just playing count the odds, and that's completely fine as well. It's kind of preference. I heard Calvish say this the other day. I think if you're new to Outlaw, I wouldn't really mess with Killing Spree. I would just take count the odds because it's just a passive thing. It's less for you to focus on, and you'll have a lot easier of a time. If you want to step it up a notch and get spicy, Killing Spree is really fun, and I would recommend checking it out. PvP talent's really quick. In general, I baseline play Enduring Brawler every game. This is just really good. I play Take Your Cut every time I can. Because this gives my teammates haste. Something to note, it has a very small range. So 15 yards is actually way shorter than you might think. With all my modifiers and stuff, my melee abilities have an 8-yard range, which is right here to the target. So about double this is probably around right here. This is about how close you need to be to your teammates for the Roll the Bones buff to go through on Take Your Cut. So this is something to keep in mind. Make sure if you're playing this, you always run near your teammates when you're going to use Roll the Bones for them to benefit. And then for the last choice, it's kind of up in the air. Sometimes I play Veil of Midnight. I play this into a lot of things. It's just, I call this God Cloak. It's really OP. If I'm not going to play Veil of Midnight, I could maybe play Smoke Bomb. Sometimes I'll play Veil of Midnight and I'll switch Haste out for Smoke Bomb. It kind of just depends on the vibe. In general, I think the best talents, though, are these three. I end up playing these three a lot. You can also play Disarm. Sometimes I'll do this combo right here. But yeah, in general, I'm kind of baseline this, and you can kind of flex these however you want based on the matchup. Leave it up to yourself to decide. Next up, I want to talk about Roll the Bones itself. You'll notice whenever I roll the bones, boom, this thing pops up right here. This is a WEAKAURA. I'm going to link this WEAKAURA below my video description or something like that. This WEAKAURA that I have, it's basically designed for PvE. So whenever you see like a font pop up saying how good the roll is, keep in mind that's not directly relevant in PvP, but it's still just, I use it as like a little pop-up to kind of show me what buffs I roll. It'll tell you if you get a big roll, if you get like a 5 or 6 roll. So it's really easy to know when you have like a lot of damage. And once you get used to it, you can kind of see what buffs you have, just to give you an idea of how much pressure you can put out. In general, on Outlaw, I wouldn't overthink Roll the Bones because it's going to make your gameplay feel really weird. Never play around your buffs to play the game the same way always, but having an idea of what buffs you have is really nice. There's 2 buffs that are really nice in my opinion. There's Broadside, which is going to give you more combo points, and then there's the Shark buff, Ruthless Precision. This one's going to give you basically with your, as long as you're 20% crit and you have Between the Eyes up, which puts you at 40, it gives you 60% extra crit with Between the Eyes. So because of the way we do most of our damage, which I'm going to explain in a second, during Ruthless Precision buff, we're going to do tons of burst damage. We'll be critting every single Between the Eyes. The only thing I really want to talk about with Roll the Bones, like I said, don't go in depth. Because of our 4 set, if you read it, Roll the Bones additionally refreshes a random buff you already have. What this means is that every time you use Roll the Bones, you want to already have a buff when you're using your Loaded Dice. So Loaded Dice is a talent we have here. After we use Adrenaline Rush, it means that our next roll will give 2 buffs. So at the start of an arena, what you should do is something like this. Let's say the gates open, you Blade Flurry and go in stealth, and then you want to roll the bones, AR, slice. Now, since you're playing underhanded, upper hand right here, none of your buffs are going to fall off except for your actual roll. So let's say you go ahead and open up now. As soon as you build back your Roll the Bones ability, you're going to press it right away. So you'll see in a second, I have Roll the Bones again. My WEAKAURA will go off to reroll. And I have this Loaded Dice buff. So what this means is as long as I reroll with this buff before Broadside falls, I will get 3 buffs guaranteed, because I have Loaded Dice, plus I have a buff already up from the start of the game. So this is like a really good habit to get into on Outlaw. It's going to increase the amount of pressure you put out early into a game. it'll guarantee that you get those 3 buffs. You'll see this impact your energy regen, your combo point development, all of the good stuff is going to make you do a lot of damage on Outlaw. Really good habit to build. The other thing I want to talk about is Blade Flurry in general. Blade Flurry is an ability that can do a lot of damage for Outlaw when you're cleaving. This is an ability I think at a high level you're going to want to use and cancel a lot. So Blade Flurry, anytime you're hitting more than one target, you want to have this up. I would recommend tracking this. I use Tell Me When right here. Really simple add-on. It's kind of like a simpler WEAKAURAs just to kind of track my Blade Flurry. This also gets built back through our combo points. So every time you want to do a bit more damage, you're going to want to put Blade Flurry up to do a bit of cleave. Now, that being said, I think it's extremely necessary at high rating to have a cancel Blade Flurry macro. Really simple macro, /cancel aura space Blade Flurry. And what this does is if you put Blade Flurry up, and then you hit this macro, boom, it'll take the buff off. So this way, let's say you're playing with a mage, you're cleaving because there's 2 melee on you, and then your mage goes, I'm going to get a sheep, you cancel your Blade Flurry. That way you're not going to break CC, obviously. Next thing I'm going to jump into is usually people's favorite part. We're going to talk about the actual DPS rotation in Arena, what it's going to look like, and how to actually burst as an Outlaw rogue. So first thing first, I think this is what I always tell people when they ask on my stream for advice on Outlaw. The way you play Outlaw in the current season, this is Season 3 Dragonflight, is you play around Crackshot. This talent is how you do big damage, this is how you top the meters, this is how you pop off. Basically, anytime that you're in stealth, you have Subterfuge or Shadow Dance up, your Between the Eyes does not trigger a cooldown. And it will also do a dispatch for 50% of normal damage. It's nerfed in PvP. It says 75 here, but it's 50% of normal damage. So the way you want to do the most damage is ideally, you have that Ruthless Precision Shark buff. BTE is 100% crit. And then you're using your Vanishes offensively, if you're able to just spam Between the Eyes and then build it back with Ambush or Pistol Shot procs. And then during dance as well. So Vanishes and dance. Things to note really quick about how to do this burst. We have a talent called Improved Adrenaline Rush. When you activate Adrenaline Rush, you will get full combo points. So something you can do is you can dance. Let's say you stun a target and then you dance and you have full points built up. Let's say you cheap shot, full points. You can press Between the Eyes. Now, if you get a proc from Ace Up Your Sleeve, this will instantly kind of refill your combo points again. So you can just press Between the Eyes over and over and over again every time that happens. Sometimes you'll get crazy RNG and you just keep pressing Between the Eyes and you're just slamming your target. But what you can do is if you have AR coming up, you can actually press Between the Eyes, and then if you don't get a proc, you can just use Adrenaline Rush, fill your points, and then press BTE again. So there's ways to kind of combo your damage. The way you're going to do the most burst as Outlaw and the most damage overall is getting the most value out of Crackshot. So yeah, like I said, during your Vanish window when you have Subterfuge, and during your Dance window, you want to spam as many Between the Eyes as possible. Ideally, this is when you're going to use your Ghostly Strike as well with like your Shadow Dance and stuff. Ghostly Strike does also reset with combo points, so you have this up more frequent than Dance probably, so that's completely fine. In general, though, Outlaw is very straightforward. Obviously, Blade Flurry off and on. We want to do that to min-max our damage, but we're kind of just using Sinister Strikes. And then if we have Ambush procs, we can use Ambush because we have a talent here. Ambush gives us a lot of combo points. And if we get a Pistol Shot proc, we get a bunch of combo points from that as well. If you have an Ambush proc and you have a Pistol Shot, it's better to Ambush because we get more points and it does more damage. But if you want to be very energy efficient, Pistol Shot procs are actually super low energy. So they can actually give you a lot of points. So sometimes when I'm in a Shadow Dance, if I have a ton of energy, I'll just spam Ambush and Between the Eyes over and over. But if I'm kind of energy starved and I need that damage really bad, I'll just use Pistol Shot procs to get back to another Between the Eyes. But yeah, like I said, in general, for the rotation, Crackshot is where you're going to get all the value out of your big damage, and I guarantee you, all of your favorite best rank 1 rogues would completely agree with this. This is just the way to play Outlaw right now. Something else to note about Outlaw, what I was just talking about, is since we do have this talent, underhanded, upperhand, this actually gives us a 3-second stealth window, which is the same thing as Subterfuge. So the way that these interact is they actually stack with each other. So you see, I have another Tell Me one here. When I come out of stealth, I actually have a 6-second Subterfuge, which gives me a long time to kind of get those crack shots off. So just doing the basic rotation here, it would look something like this. We're going to ignore Roll the Bones for now. But let's just say, for example, we're on our target here. We want a Kidney Dance. We can dance, press our Ghostly, and we're just going to spam Between the Eyes. We didn't proc, so we ambush. We got a proc there, so we press Between the Eyes twice. Our dance falls, so we could vanish, and then Between the Eyes again. And as you can see, I have a ton of energy, so I'm just spamming Between the Eyes here. And when I don't have Between the Eyes, I'm just going to press Ambush. Now, times that you want to use Between the Eyes is when you don't have Vanish for like 45 seconds or so, and if you don't have Dance for like 15 seconds or so. Whenever you're in that window, you'll actually build back Between the Eyes before you build back Vanish or have Dance back. So it's fine to just throw Between the Eyes. But in general, like let's say, for example, your dance is back in 5 seconds and your between the eyes is up, you're going to want to wait to press between the eyes until you're going to dance. That way you get the most value out of your dance. If you between the eyes early to like maintain the buff, then you're kind of griefing yourself and you're not going to be able to dance anyways until it's back, or else you're just losing a lot of value. But yeah, guys, I'm not going to make this guide super complicated. I wanted to make it very short, very accurate on the most important things. I'm not a guide maker that's going to make you guys sit through a bunch of boring stuff. So yeah, if you guys have specific questions, make sure you guys leave it in the comments. I do read all my comments on my video, even you trolls. I see your dumb comments trolling my ass. I see them. And if you guys want a live answer without any delay, I live stream every single day at twitch.tv/Palumor. And after posting this guide, I'm actually going to be live streaming. I'm actually competing at AWC next Wednesday with like a content team. I'm playing with Hansel and Crusader. So I'll be live, probably playing 3v3 with those two right after I post this video, so you guys can come say what's up and see me over there. But yeah, thank you so much for watching the guide, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys all in the next video.